The morning sun rose over the wheat fields of SCI-FI, painting the sky in shades of soft orange and pink. Sarah Chen stood on her porch with a cup of coffee in her hands. She watched her 2 children run through the tall grass, their laughter carried by the gentle wind. This was paradise. This was home. SCI-FI was a small world on the edge of human space. It was not important. It had no military bases. It had no weapons factories. It was simply a farming colony where 2.3 million people lived quiet and peaceful lives. They grew food. They raised families. They built schools and hospitals in small towns with names that reminded them of Earth. Sarah had moved here 15 years ago with her husband David. They had wanted to escape the crowded cities of Earth. They wanted their children to grow up under open skies, to know what it meant to work the land with their own hands. And for 15 years, they had found exactly what they were looking for. She did not know that today would be the last day of her life. Thousands of light years away, in the great halls of the Galactic Council, a decision had been made. The SCI-FI Dominion, rulers of the galaxy for 40,000 years, had grown worried about humanity. This young species had appeared only 3 centuries ago. They had spread too fast. Their technology advanced too quickly. Their population grew at rates that made the old empires nervous. High Counselor Thexoran of the SCI stood before the assembled representatives of 12 ancient species. His scales shimmered under the chamber lights as he spoke. Humanity must be reminded of their place, he said. His voice was cold and certain. They are newcomers to this galaxy. They must learn to bow before those who came before them. We will send them a message they cannot ignore. The council voted. The result was unanimous. Humanity would receive their message. They chose SCI-FI because it was small, because it was far from Earth, because it was defenseless. The Dominion did not want a war. They simply wanted humanity to understand that the old powers could destroy them whenever they wished. It was supposed to be a simple lesson. The SCI war fleet arrived in the SCI system at exactly noon, local time. 47 warships emerged from faster-than-light travel and took position in orbit around the small blue world. Commander Vexoran looked down at the planet through his viewing screen. He saw the green fields. He saw the small cities. He saw the ships in the harbors and the vehicles on the roads. He felt nothing. "Begin bombardment," he ordered. The first plasma strikes hit the capital city of New Geneva. Buildings that had taken decades to build vanished in seconds. The hospital where Sarah's daughter had been born was reduced to ash. The school where her son learned to read became a crater of melted glass. Sarah heard the explosions from her farm. She saw the bright flashes on the horizon. For a moment, she did not understand what she was seeing. Then the emergency broadcast came through every communication device on the planet. "This is colonial defense. We are under attack. All citizens are advised to seek shelter immediately. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Sarah dropped her coffee cup. It shattered on the wooden porch, but she did not notice. She was already running toward her children. "Emma, Michael, come to me. Come now." The children heard the fear in their mother's voice. They had never heard her sound like that before. They ran to her as fast as their small legs could carry them. Sarah grabbed them both and held them tight against her chest. David came running from the barn. His face was white with terror. "We have to get to the shelter," he said. "The old mining tunnels. We have to go now." They ran. All around them, other families were running too. The sky had turned dark with smoke and fire. Plasma rained down from above like the anger of vengeful gods. The wheat fields that Sarah had loved so much began to burn. They almost made it to the tunnels. The strike hit 50 meters away from them. Sarah felt the heat wash over her skin. She felt herself lifted off her feet by the shockwave. She felt her children torn from her arms, and then she felt nothing at all. The bombardment lasted for 6 hours. Commander Vexoran watched the planet burn with professional satisfaction. He was completing his duty. He was sending a message. He did not think about the people below. He did not think about the children. When the fires finally stopped, there was nothing left. The beautiful fields were gone. The small towns were gone. The 2.3 million people who had called this world home were gone. In their place was only glass and ash and silence. Commander Vexoran sent his report to the Galactic Council. Mission complete. The message had been delivered. Humanity would now understand their place in the galaxy. He was wrong. The news reached Earth 3 days later. It came in the form of a single automated distress beacon that had somehow survived the attack. The beacon contained the final moments of Erythea-7, recorded by the colony's central computer. It showed the ships arriving. It showed the bombardment beginning. It showed the cities burning and the people dying. The last image was of a wheat field on fire. President Maria Santos watched the recording in the Situation Room of the United Terran Assembly. Around her sat the leaders of humanity's military, its scientists, its diplomats. They watched in complete silence. Some of them wept. Some of them trembled with rage. Some simply stared at the screen with empty eyes. When the recording ended, no one spoke for a long time. Finally, Admiral James Morrison broke the silence. He was an old man who had served humanity for 50 years. He had fought in small conflicts and kept the peace in 100 systems. He had always believed in diplomacy. He had always believed that war was the last resort. But when he spoke, his voice was like ice. "They killed children," he said. "They murdered 2.3 million civilians to send us a message." President Santos nodded slowly. Her face was calm, but her hands were shaking beneath the table. "The Galactic Council has sent us a formal communication," she said. "They express their hope that this incident will encourage humanity to adopt a more respectful attitude toward the established powers of the galaxy." She paused. "They expect us to be afraid." "Are we afraid?" asked General Chen, the head of ground forces. His voice was quiet but hard. President Santos looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. She saw grief. She saw anger. She saw something else too. Something dark and terrible and cold. "No," she said. "We are not afraid. We are awake." For 1 week, humanity said nothing. The Galactic Council waited for a response. They expected pleas for peace. They expected promises of obedience. They expected humanity to beg for forgiveness and accept their place as a minor species in a galaxy ruled by their betters. They received only silence. Ambassador Rethan of the Vethkai became nervous. He had dealt with humans for decades. He knew that they were emotional creatures who spoke often and loudly. This silence was not like them. "Perhaps we should send another message," he suggested to High Counselor Thexaran. Perhaps they did not understand the first one. Thexaran waved his hand in dismissal. "They understood. They are simply processing their grief. Soon they will come to us with tears in their eyes, begging for mercy. This is how lesser species always respond to demonstrations of power." But the days passed, and humanity remained silent. On the 7th day, the silence broke. It happened at exactly midnight, Earth time. Every communication frequency in the galaxy was suddenly filled with a single broadcast. Every species, every world, every ship heard the same message at the same moment. The technology required to do this should have been impossible. The Dominion scientists would later say that humanity must have been hiding their true capabilities for centuries. The broadcast showed a simple image: the flag of the United Terran Assembly, a blue circle on a field of black, representing Earth against the darkness of space. And beneath the flag, white words appeared one by one. "You killed our children." A pause. "You burned our home." Another pause. "You wanted to send us a message." The final words appeared slowly, as if carved into the fabric of space itself. "Message received. Now receive ours." Then President Santos appeared on the screen. Her face was calm. Her eyes were dry. But there was something in those eyes that made even the oldest members of the Galactic Council feel a chill run down their spines. 200 years ago, she began. When humanity first reached the stars, we knew that we were not alone. We knew that there were older species, greater powers, vast empires that had ruled this galaxy for thousands of years before we were born. And we asked ourselves a question: what should we do? She paused. Some of us wanted to build weapons. Some of us wanted to prepare for war. But most of us believed in peace. Most of us believed that we could live alongside the other species of this galaxy in harmony and mutual respect. We chose diplomacy. We chose trade. We chose friendship. Her voice hardened. For 200 years, we offered you our hand in peace. For 200 years, we asked for nothing but the chance to exist. And in return, you burned our children alive. President Santos leaned forward. "You have made a terrible mistake. You thought we were weak because we chose peace. You thought we were afraid because we did not threaten war. You were wrong. We were not weak. We were not afraid. We were simply waiting and hoping that war would never come." She stood up. But you brought war to us. You brought death to our children. And now you will learn why the old Earth religions spoke of hell. You will learn what humanity becomes when peace is no longer possible. The screen changed. It showed images of ships being built in vast orbital factories. It showed weapons being assembled by machines of terrifying precision. It showed soldiers training in exercises of brutal efficiency. For 200 years, President Santos continued. While we smiled and traded and spoke of friendship, we were also preparing. We hoped we would never need to use what we built. We prayed that the day would never come when we had to reveal what we had hidden. Her voice dropped to a whisper. But you made that day come. And now you will face the consequences. The final image appeared on the screen. It was a symbol that humanity had not used in centuries. A symbol from the old wars of Earth. A skull and crossbones, white against black, to the Vethkai Dominion, and all who supported the attack on Erythea 7. We are coming for you. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon, and when we arrive, you will wish you had never heard the word human. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, there was chaos. The Galactic Council called emergency meetings. Military commanders demanded information about human capabilities. Diplomats tried to establish contact with Earth to negotiate peace, but Earth had gone dark. Every human ship, every human colony, every human station fell silent and began moving toward Sol. Across 1,000 worlds, humans vanished overnight. They left behind their homes, their businesses, their lives. They left behind only empty cities and a single word, painted on walls, carved into stone, burned into fields. Remember. The Dominion watched this exodus with growing unease. High Counselor Thexaran tried to maintain his confidence, but doubt had begun to creep into his mind. They are running, he said to his advisors. They are fleeing back to their home system. The message worked. They are afraid, but Ambassador Rethan shook his head slowly. No, he said. His voice was quiet and troubled. I have studied humans for many years. They do not run from danger. They run toward it. They are not fleeing. He looked at the star charts showing the movement of human ships, all converging on a single point. They are gathering. 6 months passed. The Sol system remained silent. No communications entered or left. No ships crossed its borders. The Dominion sent scouts to observe from a distance, but they could see nothing through the strange interference that surrounded humanity's home. Some members of the Galactic Council began to relax. Perhaps the humans had realized they could not win. Perhaps they were simply hiding, hoping to be forgotten. Perhaps the crisis had passed. Then the interference around Sol disappeared. What the scouts saw made them scream in terror before their ships were destroyed. The sky around Earth was black with ships. Not hundreds. Not thousands. 12,000 warships, each one larger and more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Carriers the size of moons. Weapons platforms that crackled with energies that defied known physics. Fighter craft so numerous that they blocked out the stars, and at the center of this vast armada, a single ship larger than all the others. It was shaped like a sword, 20 kilometers long, its hull covered with weapons that glowed with barely contained power. The ship's name was written on its side in letters a kilometer tall. Remember Erythea. Admiral Helena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the great ship. She was 50 years old, with gray hair and hard eyes. She had lost her sister on Erythea 7. Her sister's 3 children had died there too. She looked at the stars through the viewing screen. Somewhere out there were the Vethkai. Somewhere out there were the ones who had murdered her family. All ships, she said, her voice carrying to every vessel in the fleet. Set course for Vethkai space. Maximum speed. She paused. It is time for humanity to send its reply. 12,000 ships began to move as one. The largest fleet in the history of the galaxy was heading to war, and in their wake, they left behind a message broadcast on every frequency, in every language, to every corner of the cosmos. A single sentence that would echo through history. You wanted to teach us our place. We will now teach you yours. The galaxy had awakened a sleeping giant, and that giant was very, very angry. The fire was coming, and nothing would stop it. The Vethkai border world of Tessan Prime was a jewel of the Dominion. 800 million citizens lived in its crystal cities. Its museums held artifacts from 40,000 years of galactic history. Its universities taught the children of the elite. It was a symbol of everything the Dominion had built. It was also the first world in the path of the human fleet. Governor Mexoran stood in his office, watching the news feeds with growing terror. The human armada had crossed into Dominion space 3 hours ago. Every defense station in their path had been destroyed within seconds. The border fleet, 500 of the Dominion's finest warships, had engaged the humans and been wiped out in less than an hour. Not a single human ship had been lost. How is this possible? Mexoran whispered. How can they have weapons like this? Our intelligence said they were weak. Our spies said they had nothing that could match our technology. His military advisor, Commander Thex Voran, was pale beneath his scales. His hands shook as he read the reports coming in from the front lines. They lied to us, he said. For 200 years. They showed us only what they wanted us to see. Trading ships, colony vessels, small patrol craft. But behind that mask they were building this. He gestured at the images of the human fleet. Ships that dwarfed anything the Dominion had ever constructed. Weapons that tore through shields like paper. Engines that moved faster than any known technology should allow. We poked a beast we did not understand. Commander Thex Voran continued. And now that beast has shown us its claws. Governor Mexoran turned to his communications officer. Send a message to the human fleet. Tell them we wish to negotiate. Tell them Thesson Prime had nothing to do with the attack on their colony. We are innocent. We are willing to pay reparations. We are willing to. The communications officer looked up from his console. His face was gray with fear. Sir, the humans have responded. What did they say? The officer swallowed hard. They said, there are no innocents in the Dominion. There is only the guilty and the dead. You voted for our destruction. We remember. We do not forgive. Governor Mexoran felt his heart stop. He looked out the window at his beautiful city, at the crystal towers that caught the sunlight, at the children playing in the parks below. Evacuate, he said. Evacuate everyone. Get them to the shelters, to the ships, anywhere. We have to. The first missiles struck the planet's defense grid. Admiral Helena Vasquez watched from the bridge of the Remember Erythea as Thesson Prime's orbital defenses crumbled. The Dominion's weapons, considered the most advanced in the galaxy, were useless against human shields. Their ships, so feared by other species, were torn apart by human guns. It was not a battle. It was an execution. The enemy fleet is destroyed, reported Captain Chen from the tactical station. Planetary defenses are offline. We have achieved orbital supremacy. Vasquez nodded. Her face showed no emotion. Inside, she felt nothing but cold purpose. What are our orders? Admiral? Asked Captain Chen. Do we demand surrender? Do we land troops? Vasquez thought about her sister. She thought about her niece and nephews who had burned on Erythea 7. She thought about the 2.3 million innocent humans who had died simply because they existed. No troops, she said. No surrender. She turned to the weapons officer. Glass it. The officer hesitated. Admiral, there are 800 million civilians on that planet. They have no weapons. They cannot fight back. They are defenseless. So were our people on Erythea. Vasquez replied. Her voice was quiet but hard as steel. So were the children in the schools. So were the babies in the hospitals. The Dominion wanted to teach us a lesson about power. Now we will teach them. She leaned forward. Glass. The planet. The officer looked at her for a long moment. Then he turned to his console and began entering commands. Nuclear bombardment commencing. 1,000 nuclear missiles launched from the human fleet. They fell toward Thesson Prime like rain. They struck cities and towns and villages. They turned crystal towers to dust. They vaporized parks where children had played. They burned libraries and museums and hospitals. 800 million Vethkai died in the span of 30 minutes. When it was over, Thesson Prime was a dead world. Its surface had been melted to glass by the heat of 1,000 nuclear explosions. Nothing remained. Nothing would ever grow there again. Admiral Vasquez watched the fires burn. She felt no satisfaction. She felt no guilt. She felt only the cold certainty that this was necessary. Send a message to the Galactic Council, she ordered. Tell them, one for one, you took 2.3 million of ours. We have only begun. She turned away from the burning world. Set course for the next target. The news of Thesson Prime's destruction spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Every species, Every world, every being heard what the humans had done. 800 million dead, in a single day, an entire world turned to glass. The Galactic Council met in emergency session. High Counselor Thexoran stood before the assembled representatives. But he was no longer confident. His scales had lost their shine. His voice trembled as he spoke. "We must unite against this human aggression," he said. "We must combine our fleets and crush them before they destroy us all." Ambassador Rethan rose to speak. He looked old and tired, his eyes filled with a terrible understanding. "You still do not see," he said. "You still do not understand what we have done. We did not attack a weak species. We attacked a species that was holding itself back. We attacked a species that chose peace not because they could not make war, but because they did not want to." He gestured at the images of the burning world on the display screens. "And now they want to." The council chamber erupted in argument. Some demanded immediate attack. Some demanded surrender. Some demanded that the species who had supported the Erythea attack be handed over to the humans as sacrifice. But it was too late for any of these options. While the council argued, the human fleet continued its advance. 3 more Vethkai worlds fell in the following week. Each one was destroyed completely. Each one was burned to glass. The humans did not occupy. They did not conquer. They simply erased, and with each world that burned, a message was broadcast to the galaxy. "Remember Erythea, on Earth." President Santos watched the reports from the front with a heavy heart. She had ordered this war. She had unleashed humanity's fury upon the galaxy. She knew it was necessary. She knew there was no other way. But she also knew that history would judge her. And she was not sure what that judgment would be. Her advisor, General Morrison, entered her office. He was an old man who had served humanity all his life. He had been one of the loudest voices calling for restraint before the war. Now he was one of its most dedicated supporters. "The Second Fleet is ready to launch," he reported. "Admiral Wong is taking 12,000 ships to strike the Rethanian Confederacy." They were the second strongest supporters of the Erythea attack in the council. Santos nodded. "And the Third Fleet?" "Under construction. It will be ready in 3 months. Admiral Petrov will lead it against the Thessan Empire." Santos turned to look at the star map on her wall. It showed the galaxy, with human space marked in blue and enemy territory marked in red. The red was vast, the blue was small. "How long?" she asked. "How long until we have crushed them all?" Morrison considered the question carefully. "If we maintain our current rate of advance, and if our intelligence about enemy capabilities is correct, we should be able to defeat the Vethkai Dominion within 2 years. The other species who supported the attack will take another 3 to 5 years after that. 5 to 7 years of war," Santos said. 5 to 7 years of death and destruction." "Yes, Madam President." Santos was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Is this right, James? Are we right to do this? We are killing billions of people who had nothing to do with Erythea. We are destroying civilizations that have existed for thousands of years. Are we any better than they are?" Morrison did not answer immediately. He walked to the window and looked out at the night sky of Earth. The stars were bright and cold and distant. "I have asked myself that question every day since this began," he said, "and I do not have a good answer. I know that what we are doing is terrible. I know that innocent people are dying because of our actions. But I also know what will happen if we stop." He turned to face her. "If we stop now, they will think they can attack us again. They will wait a few years, rebuild their fleets, and come for Earth. And next time, they will not destroy just one colony. They will try to wipe us out completely. They have learned that we are dangerous. They will not make the mistake of leaving us alive." Santos closed her eyes. "So we must destroy them before they destroy us. Yes, it is not justice. It is survival. And I wish with all my heart that it could be different. But we did not start this war. We offered peace for 200 years. They chose to make us enemies. And now we must finish what they started." Santos opened her eyes. They were wet with tears she would not let fall. "Then we continue," she said. "God forgive us. We continue." Far from Earth, in the depths of Vethkai space, Admiral Vasquez led the First Fleet deeper into enemy territory. They had destroyed 8 worlds now. The death toll was in the billions. The Dominion's military had been shattered, but the war was far from over. The Vethkai had sent a massive fleet to stop the humans. 6,000 warships, drawn from every corner of their empire, gathered at the fortress world of Kethan. It was the largest fleet the Dominion had ever assembled. It was their last hope. Admiral Vasquez looked at the enemy formation on her tactical display. 6,000 ships, millions of soldiers, the full might of an empire that had ruled the galaxy for 40,000 years. She felt no fear. All ships, she ordered. Battle formation. We will engage the enemy in 30 minutes. Captain Chen studied the tactical data with concern. Admiral, they outnumber us significantly. Their defensive position is strong. This will not be an easy victory. Vasquez smiled, but there was no warmth in it. They think numbers matter, she said. They think position matters. They still do not understand. She stood and walked to the main viewing screen. The enemy fleet was visible in the distance, a wall of ships bristling with weapons. For 40,000 years, the Vethkai have fought wars against species as old as themselves. Species who fight by the same rules, with the same tactics, with the same limitations. They have never faced an enemy like us. She turned to face her crew. We are human. We do not fight fair. We do not fight by rules. We fight to win, and we will win today, no matter the cost, because we remember what they did. We remember the children of Erythea, and we will not rest until every world that supported their murder has burned. The crew responded with a roar of agreement. These were not the peaceful humans who had traded with the galaxy for 200 years. These were warriors, forged in the fire of grief and rage. All ships, Vasquez commanded. Attack. The human fleet surged forward. What followed was not a battle. It was a slaughter. The Dominion's weapons were designed for wars against similar technology. They were useless against human shields. Their ships were fast, but human ships were faster. Their tactics were sound, but human tactics were unpredictable. Within 2 hours, 5,000 Dominion ships had been destroyed. The remaining 1,000 tried to flee, but human pursuit craft ran them down. Not a single enemy vessel escaped. Human losses. 47 ships. Admiral Vasquez looked at the wreckage of the enemy fleet. Millions of Vethkai had died in this battle. An entire military had been erased. She felt nothing. Send a message to High Counselor Thexoran, she ordered. Tell him his fleet is destroyed. Tell him his fortress world is next. Tell him there is nowhere in this galaxy he can hide from us. She paused. And tell him we are just getting started. The message was received by the Galactic Council 3 hours later. When Thexoran read it, his scales turned pale white. He had believed his fleet was invincible. He had believed the humans could be stopped. He had been wrong. What do we do? Asked one of the council members. How do we fight an enemy like this? Thexoran had no answer. For the first time in his long life, he felt true fear. Not the fear of losing a battle or a war. The fear of extinction. The humans were coming, and nothing could stop them. In the weeks that followed, the fortress world of Kethan fell. Then the industrial world of Vexan. Then the capital world of Tessan. One by one, the great centers of the Dominion were reduced to ash. The Vethkai tried everything. They tried negotiation. The humans refused. They tried ambush. The humans saw through it. They tried surrender. The humans accepted, but then demanded the names of every official who had supported the Erythea attack. Those officials were executed. Their families watched. The galaxy watched too, in horror and awe. Species that had considered themselves powerful realized they were nothing. Civilizations that had existed for millions of years saw that they could be destroyed in days, and everywhere, the same message was repeated. In every broadcast, on every frequency, in every language. Remember Erythea. The humans did not fight for territory. They did not fight for resources. They did not fight for power. They fought because 2.3 million of their people had been murdered, and the universe would not be right until that crime had been answered. It was not war. It was vengeance. And it had only just begun. 1 year into the war, the Vethkai Dominion was on the verge of collapse. 6 of their 12 founding species had suffered massive losses. 2 had been reduced to a handful of survivors. The great empire that had ruled the galaxy for 40,000 years was dying. High Counselor Thexoran sat alone in his private chambers, surrounded by the ruins of everything he had built. His fleet was destroyed. His worlds were burning. His people were dying, and it was all his fault. He had voted for the attack on Erythea. He had believed it would make humanity afraid. He had believed the humans were weak. He had been a fool. A soft chime announced a visitor. Thexaran did not look up. Enter. Ambassador Rethan walked into the chamber. He looked old and tired, his scales dull with age and grief. The human fleet has been sighted approaching the homeworld, he said. They will arrive in 3 days. Thexaran nodded slowly. Then this is the end. It does not have to be. We could surrender. We could offer them everything. Perhaps they would show mercy. Thexaran laughed. But there was no humor in it. Mercy? We killed their children. We burned their world. There is no mercy for what we did. He finally looked up at the ambassador. I understand them now. I understand what we awakened. They are not monsters. They are something far worse. What are they? Thexaran's voice was barely a whisper. They are us. They are what we would be if someone had murdered our children. They are grief and rage given form, and they will not stop until that grief is satisfied. He closed his eyes. We did this to ourselves. We created the very thing we feared. And now we must pay the price. 3 days later, the human fleet arrived at the Vethkai homeworld. The war was about to enter its final phase, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Vethkai homeworld of Vetharan had stood for 40,000 years. Its cities were ancient beyond measure. Its temples held the wisdom of 100 generations. Its libraries contained the knowledge of 1,000 civilizations. It was the heart of an empire that had shaped the galaxy. Now it was about to die. Admiral Helena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Remember Erythea, watching the planet grow larger in the viewing screen. It was a beautiful world, she had to admit. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds drifting across the sky. It looked almost like Earth. She wondered if the Vethkai who had ordered the attack on Erythea had thought the same thing. She wondered if they had seen the beauty of humanity's colony world before they burned it. She wondered if they had cared. Admiral, said Captain Chen, we are receiving a transmission from the surface. High Counselor Thexaran wishes to speak with you. Vasquez considered refusing. She had nothing to say to the creature who had ordered the murder of her family. But something made her hesitate. Perhaps it was curiosity. Perhaps it was the need to see the face of her enemy before the end. Put him through. The image of Thexaran appeared on the screen. He looked old and broken, his scales dull, his eyes empty. The arrogance that had defined him for centuries was gone. In its place was only exhaustion and despair. Admiral Vasquez, he said. His voice was quiet and rough. I know why you have come. I know what you intend to do. But I ask you, one ruler to another, to hear my words before you pass judgment. Vasquez said nothing. She simply waited. Thexaran continued. What we did to Erythea was wrong. I know that now. I knew it then, if I am honest with myself. But I was afraid. We were all afraid. Humanity was growing too fast, becoming too powerful. We saw in you the seeds of our own destruction, and we acted out of fear rather than wisdom. He paused, gathering his thoughts. I have lived for 300 years. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched species burn themselves to extinction in wars of pride and greed. And in all that time, I thought I understood power. I thought I understood what made a species strong. His voice grew softer. I was wrong. Power is not ships or weapons or territory. Power is the will to use them. And humanity has a will that we never understood. A will born of love. Love for your families. Love for your children. Love for each other. That love has become rage, and that rage has become fire, and that fire is consuming us all. Vasquez felt something stir in her chest. Not sympathy, not forgiveness, something else. Recognition, perhaps. The recognition of a creature who finally understood what it had done. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Thexaran looked at her with ancient eyes. Because I want you to know that I understand. Because I want you to know that I do not blame you for what you are about to do. We murdered your children. We burned your world. We tried to break your spirit. And in doing so, we ensured our own destruction. He bowed his head. I have only one request. Not mercy for myself. Not forgiveness for my people. Only this. Remember us, not just as monsters, but as fools. Remember that we were afraid, and our fear made us cruel, and our cruelty made us blind. Perhaps, in the ages to come, other species will learn from our mistake. Vasquez was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke. High Counselor, I will remember your words. I will remember that you were afraid. I will remember that you understood. In the end, what you had done. She leaned forward. But I will also remember Sarah Chen. She was a farmer on Erythea 7. She had 2 children, Emma and Michael. Emma was 7 years old. She wanted to be a teacher. Michael was 5. He loved to run through the wheat fields. Sarah was my sister. Her voice grew hard. They burned to death because you were afraid. They died screaming because you saw them as a lesson to be taught. And no words, no apologies, no understanding will ever bring them back. She stood. So yes, High Counselor, I will remember you. I will remember that you were fools, and I will make sure that the galaxy remembers too. Remembers what happens when you touch what belongs to humanity. Remembers what happens when you hurt our children. She turned away from the screen. End transmission. The image of Thexaran disappeared. Vasquez looked at her weapons officer. Begin the bombardment. Admiral, said Captain Chen quietly. There are 15 billion people on that planet. Civilians. Children. People who had nothing to do with Erythea. Vasquez did not look at him. She kept her eyes fixed on the planet below. The Council voted unanimously to destroy our colony. Every species, every representative, every voice in that chamber agreed that our children should burn. This is the Vethkai homeworld. This is where that decision was made. This is where the orders were given. She finally turned to face her captain. I do not enjoy this. I take no pleasure in what we are about to do. But if we show mercy now, the galaxy will think we are weak. They will attack us again. They will kill more of our children, and I will not allow that. Not today. Not ever. Captain Chen held her gaze for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. I understand, Admiral. Vasquez turned back to the viewing screen. Begin the bombardment. Leave nothing standing. The missiles launched. Thousands of them, spreading across the sky like a swarm of fireflies. They fell toward the ancient cities, the sacred temples, the great libraries. They struck with nuclear fury, turning history to ash. 15 billion Vethkai died in the span of 4 hours. When it was over, the homeworld of the Dominion was a dead rock. Its surface melted to glass. Its atmosphere burned away. 40,000 years of civilization had been erased in a single afternoon. Admiral Vasquez watched the fires burn. She thought about her sister. She thought about Emma and Michael, who would never grow up, never fall in love, never have children of their own. She thought about the 2.3 million humans who had died on Erythea, all because an ancient empire had been afraid. A tear rolled down her cheek. The first she had shed since the war began. Rest now, she whispered. Your deaths have been answered. She wiped her face and turned to her crew. Set course for the next target. The war is not over yet. The destruction of the Vethkai homeworld sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Every species that had supported the attack on Erythea realized they were next. Every civilization that had voted for humanity's punishment understood that their time was running out. Some tried to run. They packed their ships and fled to the far edges of the galaxy, hoping to escape the human fleet. But human ships were faster, and human sensors were sharper, and human hunters were relentless. One by one, the fleeing species were caught and destroyed. Some tried to hide. They burrowed deep into the hearts of planets, or concealed themselves in the dark spaces between stars, or disguised their worlds to look uninhabited. But human intelligence officers had spent 2 centuries studying the galaxy, and they knew every hiding place, every secret, every deception. One by one, the hidden species were found and destroyed. Some tried to fight. They formed alliances with other condemned species, combining their fleets and their armies in desperate last stands. But human weapons were more powerful, human tactics were more advanced, and human soldiers were more determined. One by one, the fighting species were defeated and destroyed, and some tried to surrender. They sent messages to Earth begging for mercy, offering everything they had in exchange for survival. The humans accepted their surrender, but then they demanded the names of every official who had supported the Erythea attack. Those officials were executed. Their governments were dismantled. Their militaries were destroyed. They were allowed to live, but only as broken remnants of what they had once been. The message was clear. You may survive, but you will never threaten humanity again. President Santos watched the war unfold from Earth, her heart growing heavier with each passing day. The numbers were staggering. Billions dead, dozens of species extinct or nearly so, ancient civilizations reduced to rubble. The galaxy that humanity had hoped to join as friends was being transformed into a graveyard. "Is this who we are now?" she asked General Morrison one night. "Is this what we have become? Destroyers of worlds? Killers of billions?" Morrison poured her a drink and sat down across from her. "We are what they made us," he said. "We did not choose this path. They forced us onto it, and now we must walk it to the end, no matter how dark it becomes." "But where does it end?" Santos demanded. "How many must die before we are satisfied? How much blood must be spilled before we can call ourselves avenged?" Morrison was quiet for a long moment. "I do not know," he admitted. "I have asked myself that question every day since the Sun Prime, and I still do not have an answer. But I do know this. If we stop now, if we show weakness, they will come for us again. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. And when they do, they will not make the mistake of leaving survivors." He looked at her with tired eyes. "This is not justice. This is survival. And survival is ugly. It is cruel. It is bloody. But it is necessary, because the alternative is extinction." Santos finished her drink and poured another. "History will remember us as monsters," she said. "Perhaps," Morrison agreed. "Or perhaps history will remember us as survivors, as the species that refused to die, as the people who did whatever was necessary to protect their children." He raised his glass. "To the children of Erythea, may they rest in peace, and may we never forget why we fight." Santos raised her glass in return. "To the children." They drank in silence, two old warriors carrying the weight of a galaxy on their shoulders. 2 years after the war began, the Vethkai Dominion ceased to exist. 6 of its 12 founding species were extinct. The other 6 had surrendered unconditionally and accepted human oversight. 40,000 years of history had been wiped away in 24 months. But the war was not over. The Galactic Council had included many species beyond the Dominion. Some had voted for the attack on Erythea. Some had provided ships or resources or intelligence. Some had simply stood by and done nothing while humanity's children burned. All of them were on the list. Admiral Vasquez, now the most famous and feared human in the galaxy, led the first fleet deeper into unexplored space. She was hunting the Thessar Collective, a species that had provided the navigation data for the Erythea attack. Without their star charts, the Vethkai fleet would never have found the colony. The Thessar knew she was coming. They had prepared for years, building defenses, training soldiers, forging alliances with other condemned species. They believed they could stop her. They believed they could survive. They were wrong. The Battle of Thessar Prime lasted 2 days. It was the largest military engagement in galactic history. 300,000 ships on each side, fighting in the darkness between stars. The energy released was enough to create temporary new stars, bright enough to be seen from distant galaxies. When it was over, the Thessar fleet was destroyed. Their homeworld was burning. Their species was facing extinction. Admiral Vasquez watched the fires from her command chair. She was 52 now, her hair completely gray, her face lined with the weight of command. She had killed more beings than any human in history. She had destroyed more civilizations than any general who had ever lived, and she felt nothing. Not pride, not guilt, not satisfaction, not regret. Just a cold, empty determination to see the task through to the end. "Admiral," said Captain Chen, "the Thessar government is requesting surrender terms." Vasquez nodded. "Standard terms. Hand over all officials who supported the Erythea decision. Dismantle their military. Accept human oversight. They may keep their lives and their culture, but they will never again have the power to threaten us. And if they refuse, then we glass their world and move on to the next target." The Thessar accepted. One by one, the condemned species fell. Some fought bravely. Some surrendered quickly. Some tried clever tricks and desperate gambits. None of it mattered. The human war machine was unstoppable, a force of nature that swept across the galaxy like a tide of fire. The soldiers who fought in this war were called the Reapers by the aliens who faced them. They were feared and hated and whispered about in the dark corners of dying civilizations. They were not cruel. They did not torture or abuse or humiliate their enemies. They simply killed, efficiently, thoroughly, without passion or mercy. They were humanity's answer to Erythea, and they would not rest until the debt was paid. Private Marcus Webb was one of these reapers. He was 23 years old, born on Earth, trained for war since the age of 18. He had fought in 12 campaigns across 8 star systems. He had killed more enemies than he could count. He never thought about the people he killed. He never wondered about their families or their dreams or their fears. He simply did his job and moved on to the next assignment. It was easier that way. But sometimes, in the quiet moments between battles, he would think about why he was fighting. He would think about the children of Erythea, who had done nothing wrong except exist. He would think about the aliens who had decided those children should die, and he would feel a cold anger rising in his chest, an anger that had no end and no limits, an anger that would burn until every enemy was dead or broken. "Webb," called his sergeant. "We're moving out. New target 3 systems over. Some kind of research station that helped develop the weapons used on Erythea." Webb checked his rifle and stood up. "Understood, Sergeant. What are our orders?" "No prisoners. No mercy. Burn it to the ground." Webb nodded. "My favorite kind of orders." He followed his squad to the dropship, ready to bring death to another corner of the galaxy. Behind him, the planet they had just conquered was burning. Its cities were rubble. Its people were fleeing or dying. Its civilization was ending, and the human soldiers did not look back. This was the war for Erythea. This was humanity's vengeance, and it would continue until there was no one left to punish. The galaxy had learned a terrible lesson. Humans were not the peaceful explorers they had pretended to be. They were not the friendly traders who brought gifts and asked for friendship. They were predators, apex killers, masters of violence who had hidden their true nature for 200 years. And now that nature had been unleashed, the fire was spreading, the darkness was growing, and humanity was just getting started. 5 years had passed since the burning of Erythea. 5 years of war, 5 years of death, 5 years of vengeance. The galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The great empires that had ruled for millions of years were gone. The Vethkai Dominion was a memory. The Thessar Collective had been reduced to a handful of refugee ships. The Korthani hegemony had surrendered and accepted human rule. The Velzon unity had been wiped out completely. Their homeworld turned to glass. Their species extinct. Everywhere, the story was the same. Species that had supported the attack on Erythea were hunted down and punished. Civilizations that had stood by and done nothing were forced to choose sides. The neutral powers that had hoped to wait out the war discovered that there was no neutrality in this conflict. You were either with humanity or against them, and those who stood against them died. Admiral Helena Vasquez had become a legend. The Reaper Queen. The aliens called her. The Destroyer of Worlds. The Angel of Death. She had led humanity's fleets to victory in 100 battles. She had ordered the deaths of billions. She had broken empires and burned civilizations and reshaped the galaxy in fire and blood. And she was tired. She stood alone in her quarters on the Remember Erythea, looking at a photograph of her sister Sarah. The picture had been taken 3 years before the attack. At a family gathering on Earth, Sarah was smiling, her arms around her 2 children, Emma and Michael. They looked so happy, so alive. Vasquez touched the photograph gently. "I hope you can see this," she whispered. "I hope you know what we have done in your name. I hope it brings you peace." She did not know if she believed in an afterlife. She did not know if Sarah could hear her. But she spoke anyway, because it was the only way she could keep going. "We are almost done," she continued. "The last of them are running. The last of the guilty are hiding in the dark places between stars. But we will find them. We will finish this. And then maybe we can rest." A soft chime interrupted her thoughts. Captain Chen's voice came through the speaker. "Admiral, we have arrived at the Velzon refugee convoy. They are requesting to surrender." Vasquez closed her eyes. The Velzan. They had been a peaceful species once, philosophers and artists who had contributed much to galactic culture. But their government had voted for the Erythea attack, and that vote had sealed their fate. "How many ships?" she asked. 47 civilian transports. Approximately 2 million survivors. They are all that remains of their species. 2 million out of a population that had once numbered in the billions. The Velzon were already functionally extinct. Their culture, their art, their philosophy would vanish within a generation. "What are their terms?" Vasquez asked. "They offer unconditional surrender. They will hand over all officials who supported the Erythea attack. They ask only that we spare the civilians, most of whom were children when the vote was taken. Vasquez was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke. Accept their surrender. Take the officials into custody. Allow the civilians to settle on one of the refugee worlds we have established. Understood, Admiral. She opened her eyes and looked at the photograph of her sister again. I know you would tell me to be merciful, she whispered. I know you would tell me that enough blood has been spilled. But I am not merciful, Sarah. I cannot be. Not until this is over. She put the photograph away and walked to the bridge. The war continued. On Earth, President Santos had served 2 terms and declined to run for a 3rd. She had led humanity through its darkest hour, had ordered the deaths of billions, had transformed her species from peaceful explorers into galactic conquerors. She had done what she believed was necessary, but she was done. Her successor, President James Morrison, had been her general and advisor throughout the war. He was an old man now, 73 years old, worn down by decades of conflict, but he had accepted the burden because someone had to carry it. The war is winding down, he told the United Terran Assembly in his inaugural address. The species that attacked us have been defeated. The civilizations that supported our destruction have been broken. The galaxy knows now that humanity cannot be threatened, cannot be bullied, cannot be pushed aside. He paused, looking out at the representatives of humanity gathered before him. But victory comes with responsibility. We have conquered half the galaxy. We have broken empires and ended civilizations. We have killed more beings than any species in recorded history. And now we must decide what kind of rulers we will be. He straightened his shoulders. We will not be tyrants. We will not grind the conquered under our boots. We will offer peace to those who accept our rule, prosperity to those who work with us, justice to those who respect our laws. We did not seek this war. We did not want this power, but we have it now, and we will use it wisely. His voice hardened. But let there be no mistake. If anyone, ever, threatens humanity again, we will respond with the same fury we have shown in this war. We will not hesitate. We will not show mercy. We will burn them as they tried to burn us. The galaxy has learned this lesson once. May they never need to learn it again. The assembly applauded. But Morrison took no joy in the sound. He knew the truth that lay beneath the triumph. Humanity had won the war. But humanity had also lost something. Something precious. Something that could never be recovered. Their innocence was gone. Their belief in peace and cooperation was gone. Their hope that they could share the galaxy with other species as friends and equals was gone. In its place was something harder, something colder, something that looked at the universe and saw not wonder but threat. They had become what the galaxy had always feared, and there was no going back. Far from Earth, in the deep darkness between galaxies, a small convoy of refugee ships drifted through the void. They were the last survivors of the HFY, a species that had fled the galaxy entirely in a desperate attempt to escape human vengeance. They had traveled for 3 years, pushing their engines beyond all safe limits, running from the hunters who followed. They had crossed the intergalactic gulf, a journey that should have been impossible, driven by nothing but terror and the will to survive. They thought they were safe. They were wrong. The human scout ship detected them first. It was a small vessel, barely larger than the refugee transports, but it carried sensors that could see across light years and weapons that could crack a planet. Captain Lisa Park studied the refugees on her display screen. 42 ships, perhaps 100,000 survivors. The last of a species that had helped plan the attack on Erythea. She sent a message to the main fleet. 3 weeks behind her. Contact confirmed. HFY refugee convoy. Bearing 147.23 by -56.89. Approximately 2 million kilometers distant. Awaiting instructions. The response came quickly. Engage and destroy, no survivors. Park hesitated. The refugees were unarmed. They were running. They had no way to fight back. Killing them would be easy, but it would not be clean. She thought about Erythea. She thought about the children who had burned. She thought about the vote that the HFY government had cast, choosing to end 2.3 million human lives. She made her decision. All weapons. Target the refugee convoy. Fire at will. The missiles launched. The refugees had no shields, no defenses, no hope. They died in the silence of the void, their ships torn apart, their bodies scattered across the dark. The last of the Kethvari ceased to exist. Captain Park watched the wreckage drift past her view screen. She felt nothing. Not satisfaction. Not guilt. Just the cold certainty that she had done her duty. "Contact command," she ordered. "Report target destroyed. Resuming patrol." She turned away from the destruction and set course for the next target. The hunt continued. 7 years after Erythea, the war finally ended. The last condemned species had been defeated. The last guilty officials had been executed. The last resistant worlds had been broken. The galaxy, or what remained of it, had submitted to human rule. Admiral Helena Vasquez returned to Earth for the first time in 5 years. She walked through the streets of Geneva, where the United Terran Assembly met, and saw the faces of her fellow humans. They looked at her with awe and fear and gratitude and horror, often all at once. She understood. She had become something more than human. She had become a symbol, the face of vengeance, the hand of death. She did not want to be these things, but she was. President Morrison met her at the assembly building. He was old now, his hair white, his body bent with age, but his eyes were still sharp, still clear. "Welcome home, Admiral," he said. "You have done what we asked of you. You have won our war." Vasquez nodded slowly. "The war is over, but I wonder if we have won anything at all." Morrison looked at her with understanding. "You are thinking of the cost. 83 billion dead. 200 species extinct. 1,000 civilizations reduced to rubble. We set out to avenge 2.3 million people. We ended up killing more beings than have died in all the wars in human history combined." She met his eyes. "Was it worth it?" Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. "I have asked myself that question every day since this began, and I still do not have a good answer. We did terrible things. We killed innocent people. We burned worlds that had done nothing wrong except be in the wrong place at the wrong time." He paused. "But we also survived. We protected Earth. We ensured that no one will ever attack our children again. And I think, in the end, that is all we can say. We did what we had to do. We paid the price that was demanded, and now we must live with the consequences." He put his hand on her shoulder. "You are a hero, Helena. Not a monster. You did what no one else could do. You carried a burden that would have crushed anyone else, and you saw it through to the end." Vasquez felt tears forming in her eyes. The first tears she had shed in years. "I do not feel like a hero," she whispered. "I feel like a murderer." "Then feel both," Morrison said. "Because you are both. And that is the tragedy of war. It turns us into things we never wanted to be. It forces us to do things we never wanted to do. And it leaves scars that never heal." He stepped back. "Go home, Admiral. Rest. Try to find peace. You have earned it. Whatever peace there is to find." Vasquez nodded. She walked out of the assembly building and into the sunlight of a free Earth. Above her, the sky was blue and clear, unmarked by enemy ships or falling bombs. They had won, but she could not feel the victory. All she could feel was the weight of 83 billion souls, pressing down on her shoulders, demanding to know why they had to die. She had no answer for them. She never would. In the years that followed, humanity settled into its role as ruler of the galaxy. They were not cruel masters. They built schools and hospitals on conquered worlds. They helped rebuild civilizations they had destroyed. They offered citizenship to aliens who accepted their rule. But they were always watchful, always suspicious, always ready to strike at the first sign of rebellion. The other species of the galaxy learned to live under human oversight. They learned to obey human laws. They learned to bow when human ships passed overhead. They did not love their conquerors, but they feared them, and that was enough. The children of these conquered species grew up with stories of the war. They heard about the burning of Erythea. They heard about human vengeance. They heard about worlds turned to glass and species wiped from existence. And they learned the lesson that their parents had learned at such terrible cost. Never threaten humanity. Never touch their children. Never give them a reason to turn their terrible fury upon you. Because humans were not like other species. They did not fight for territory or resources or power. They fought for love. Love of family. Love of children. Love of each other. And love, when it was wounded, could become something terrifying. The galaxy was quiet now. Peaceful. Orderly. The great wars were over. The great empires were gone. In their place was a single human dominion, stretching across 100,000 worlds. It was not the galaxy humanity had hoped to find when they first reached the stars. It was not a galaxy of friends and partners and fellow explorers. It was a galaxy of subjects and vassals and conquered peoples. But it was a galaxy where human children could grow up in safety, where human families could live without fear, where humanity's future was secure, and in the end, that was all that mattered. The fire had burned itself out, the vengeance was complete, and humanity stood alone at the top of the ashes, looking out at the stars they had conquered, wondering if the price they had paid was worth the victory they had won. There was no answer to that question. There never would be. 10 years had passed since the burning of Erythea. The galaxy had settled into an uneasy peace. Human ships patrolled every corner of known space. Human governors ruled over conquered worlds. Human laws applied to every species, every civilization, every being who lived under the stars. It was not the galaxy that anyone had imagined. It was not a place of wonder and exploration and friendship between different peoples. It was an empire built on blood and fire, held together by fear and memory, and at the center of it all was Earth, the blue jewel of humanity, the world that had sent its children out to the stars and then burned the galaxy to protect them. On the 10th anniversary of the Erythea attack, a ceremony was held on the surface of the dead world. Ships from across human space gathered in orbit. Dignitaries and officials and ordinary citizens traveled to witness the dedication of a monument that had taken 3 years to build. The planet was unrecognizable. Where green fields had once stretched to the horizon, there was now only glass. Where cities had stood, there were only craters. Where 2.3 million people had lived and worked and raised their families, there was nothing but silence. The monument rose from the center of the largest crater, where the capital city of New Geneva had once stood. It was a spire of black obsidian, 3 kilometers tall, visible from space. Its surface was covered with names, 2.3 million names, carved into the stone by lasers, so precise that each letter was perfect. At the base of the spire, words were carved in letters 10 meters high. They were farmers, they were teachers, they were children, they were ours, and you took them. So we took everything. Admiral Helena Vasquez stood at the foot of the monument, looking up at the names that stretched toward the sky. She was 58 years old now, retired from active duty, living quietly on Earth. Her hair was completely white, her face lined with the weight of all she had done, but her eyes were still sharp, still hard, still filled with the cold fire that had driven her across the galaxy. Behind her stood the assembled leaders of humanity. President Morrison, now in his 2nd term, leading the government through the long work of rebuilding and consolidation. General Chen, who had served as her captain and was now the supreme commander of humanity's military. Thousands of soldiers, sailors, and officers who had fought in the Great War, and behind them, stretching across the glass plains of Erythea, were the families of the dead, parents who had lost children, children who had lost parents, brothers and sisters and friends and lovers, all gathered to remember those who had been taken. The ceremony began with a moment of silence. 3 billion humans, across 100,000 worlds, stopped what they were doing and bowed their heads. For 1 minute, the galaxy was quiet, united in memory of the innocent dead. Then President Morrison stepped forward to speak. 10 years ago, he began. His voice carried across the planet by speakers and broadcast across the galaxy by subspace relay. We learned a terrible lesson. We learned that the universe is not kind. We learned that there are those who would kill our children simply because they exist. We learned that peace is not given. It must be taken and held and defended with everything we have. He paused, looking out at the sea of faces before him. We did not want this war. We did not seek this power. For 200 years, we reached out to the other species of the galaxy with open hands and open hearts. We offered friendship. We offered cooperation. We offered a future where all peoples could live together in harmony. His voice hardened. They answered with fire. They answered with death. They answered by burning our children alive and telling us it was a lesson we needed to learn. He pointed at the monument behind him. This is our answer. 2.3 million names, carved in stone, standing above the world they loved. They did not die as soldiers or warriors. They died as farmers and teachers and children, murdered by those who feared what we might become. He raised his voice. Well, they were right to be afraid, because we have become exactly what they feared. We have become the most powerful species in the galaxy. We have become the rulers of 100,000 worlds. We have become the judges and executioners of those who threaten our people. He stepped back and gestured to the monument. And we have become the keepers of memory. The memory of those who died here. The memory of why we fight. The memory of what happens when anyone, anywhere, tries to hurt our children. He looked directly into the cameras that were broadcasting his words across the galaxy. To every species that lives under human rule, I say this: you have nothing to fear from us if you live in peace. We are not tyrants. We are not monsters. We are simply people who love our families and will do anything to protect them. His eyes grew cold. But if you ever raise your hand against us, if you ever harm our children, if you ever try to do what the Vethkai did 10 years ago, you will face the same fate they faced. We will come for you. We will find you. And we will not stop until there is nothing left of you but ashes and memory. He bowed his head. Remember Erythea. Remember the children. Remember the price of threatening humanity. The ceremony continued. Speakers came forward to share stories of those who had died. Children read the names of grandparents they had never met. Veterans of the war lit candles and placed them at the base of the monument. Music played, songs of loss and remembrance that echoed across the glass plains. And then it was Admiral Vasquez's turn to speak. She walked slowly to the podium, feeling the weight of every eye upon her. She had given thousands of speeches during the war, orders and briefings and victory announcements. But this was different. This was personal. She looked out at the crowd and began to speak. I lost my sister on this world. Sarah Chen. She was a farmer. She grew wheat and raised her children and lived a simple, happy life. She came to Erythea because she wanted her kids to know what it was like to run through open fields, to see the stars without city lights, to grow up free. Her voice caught, but she continued. Her daughter Emma was 7 years old when she died. She wanted to be a teacher. Her son Michael was 5. He loved to run. I remember the last time I saw them, at a family gathering 3 years before the attack. Sarah told me she had found paradise. She told me Erythea was everything she had ever wanted. Vasquez paused, gathering herself. I commanded the fleet that avenged her death. I ordered the destruction of worlds and the death of billions. I did things that I will never be able to forget. Things that visit me in my dreams every night. She looked up at the monument. People ask me if it was worth it. They ask me if all the death and destruction were justified. They ask me if I have any regrets. She was silent for a long moment. I do not know if it was worth it. I do not know if anything could be worth the price we paid. But I do know this. I would do it again. Every order, every battle, every death, because Sarah and Emma and Michael deserve to be avenged, because the 2.3 million people who died here deserve to be remembered, because humanity deserved to survive. Her voice hardened. We were peaceful once. We were kind. We reached out to the galaxy with hope in our hearts and trust in our eyes. We believed that different species could live together as friends. She shook her head. We were naive. We did not understand that the universe does not reward kindness. We did not understand that there are those who see peace as weakness and mercy as invitation. We had to learn that lesson the hard way. Written in the blood of our children. She looked out at the crowd. We have learned it now. We will never forget it. And we will make sure that no one else ever forgets it either. She raised her hand and pointed at the monument. This is our promise to the dead. We will remember you. We will honor you. And we will never, ever, let what happened to you happen again. Not to any human. Not anywhere. Not as long as our species survives. She lowered her hand. Rest now, children of Erythea. Your deaths have been answered. Your names have been carved in stone. And your legacy will live forever. In the hearts of every human who looks up at the stars. She stepped back from the podium. Remember Erythea. Remember the children. Remember. The ceremony ended as the sun set over the glass plains. The obsidian monument caught the fading light, its surface glowing with reflected fire. The names of the dead seemed to shine, as if the spirits of the fallen were looking down on the world they had loved. One by one, the mourners departed. They returned to their ships, to their homes, to their lives. But they carried with them the memory of what they had witnessed, the memory of the monument, the memory of the names, the memory of humanity's terrible promise. Admiral Vasquez remained behind. She stood alone at the base of the monument, looking up at the names that stretched toward the sky. Somewhere up there, she knew, were the names of her sister and her niece and her nephew. She could not see them from where she stood, but she knew they were there. A voice spoke behind her. Helena. She turned. President Morrison had returned, walking across the glass plain with a tired step. I thought you had left, she said. I wanted to speak with you. Alone. He came to stand beside her, looking up at the monument. You know, he said, I have been to every memorial, every anniversary ceremony, every dedication in the past 10 years. I have heard every speech, including my own. And I still do not know if we did the right thing. Vasquez nodded slowly. Neither do I. We killed 83 billion people. We ended 200 species. We burned civilizations that had existed since before humanity learned to make fire. He shook his head. The numbers are so large that they lose meaning. It is impossible to comprehend what we have done. And yet we did it. Yes, we did. He turned to look at her. Do you think the dead forgive us? Do you think Sarah and Emma and Michael would approve of what we did in their names? Vasquez was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. I think about that question every day, and I never have an answer. Sarah was a gentle person. She believed in kindness and forgiveness. She would probably be horrified by what I have done. She paused. But Sarah is dead. She did not get to make that choice. The Vethkai took it from her. They took her life and her children's lives and the lives of 2.3 million other people who just wanted to live in peace. Her voice grew hard. So I do not ask for forgiveness. I do not ask for approval. I simply did what I believed was necessary to protect our people. If Sarah would have chosen differently, she is not here to say so, and I am not sure it would have mattered anyway. Morrison nodded. That is what I tell myself too. We did not start this. We did not choose this. We simply responded to what was done to us. Does that make it right? I do not know. I do not think there is a right answer. There is only the choice we made and the consequences we must live with. They stood in silence for a while, watching the stars come out above the dead world. Finally, Morrison spoke again. A journalist asked me today if humanity had gone too far, if we had become the monsters we were fighting against. What did you tell her? I told her the truth, that I do not know what we have become, that we started as explorers and became conquerors, that we wanted peace and found only war, that we loved our children and killed billions to protect them. He looked at the monument one last time. I told her that history will judge us, and that I do not know what that judgment will be. We may be remembered as heroes who saved our species. We may be remembered as monsters who drowned the galaxy in blood. We may be remembered as both. Quote, he turned away. But I also told her this. We are still here. Humanity survives. Our children grow up in safety. And whatever else we have done, that is something. That is everything. He walked away, leaving Vasquez alone with the dead. She stood there for a long time, watching the stars wheel overhead, thinking about all she had done and all she had lost. The war was over. The victory was won. But the war inside her would never end. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely a whisper in the night. I am sorry, Sarah. I am sorry for what I have become. I am sorry that your death turned me into something I never wanted to be. She touched the base of the monument, feeling the cold stone beneath her fingers. But I am not sorry that I fought for you. I am not sorry that I made them pay. And I am not sorry that I protected our people, no matter the cost. She stepped back. Rest now, sister. Your war is over, and I will carry the burden of what we did for both of us, until the day I die. She turned and walked away, across the glass plains of Erythea, toward the ship that would take her home. Behind her, the monument stood in silence, its black surface reflecting the light of 1,000,000 stars. The names of the dead glowed faintly in the darkness. 2.3 million souls watching over the world they had loved. The galaxy was quiet. The empires were fallen. The species that had threatened humanity were dust, and on 1,000 worlds, human children grew up in peace, never knowing the price that had been paid for their safety. This was the legacy of Erythea. This was the cost of vengeance. This was what humanity had become. They had reached for the stars with hope in their hearts. They had found only war, and they had won. The galaxy would never forget, and humanity would never forgive. This was not the end of the story. It was only the beginning of a new chapter, written in the ashes of the old. Whatever came next, one thing was certain. The stars belonged to humanity now, and they would hold them forever. Captain Vex stood on the bridge of the Harmony's edge, his blue skin glowing softly under the ship's gentle lights. The Altarian had served in the Galactic Survey Fleet for 20 years, but he had never seen anything like this. "Sir, we're getting strange readings from the Void Sector," said Lieutenant K, her 6 arms dancing across the control panel. The insect-like hive species was known for their precision, but even she seemed confused by the data. "What kind of readings?" Vex asked, walking closer to the main screen. "There's a ship out there, Captain, but it shouldn't exist." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew about the Void Sector. It was a region of space so dangerous that no civilized race had ever dared to explore it properly. The area was filled with radiation storms, asteroid fields, and gravitational anomalies that could tear apart even the strongest military vessels. "Show me," Vex commanded. The main screen flickered to life, displaying a grainy image of something floating in the darkness. At first, it looked like space debris, but as the sensors focused, the crew could see it was definitely a ship. "A very strange ship by the 7 moons," whispered Dr. Cole, the ship's chief scientist. The tall, gray-skinned Zentari stepped forward, his large black eyes wide with shock. "Captain, that vessel, it's covered in battle damage." Vex studied the image carefully. The ship was relatively small, maybe half the size of the Harmony's edge. But what made everyone stare was the incredible amount of damage covering its hull. Scorch marks from plasma weapons ran along its sides. Deep gouges showed where something had tried to tear it apart. Meteor impacts had left craters across its surface. Most shocking of all, there were weapon marks from at least 12 different alien technologies. "How is it still in one piece?" asked Commander Rex, the ship's military advisor. The red-scaled Draken had fought in 3 galactic wars and knew battle damage when he saw it. Any one of those hits should have destroyed it completely. "That's not the strangest part," Kay said, her antennae twitching nervously. "According to our scans, the ship is still functioning. Life support is active. The engine core is stable. It's like the damage doesn't even matter." Engineer Bay rolled forward on his mechanical legs. The robot-like construct species was rarely surprised by anything technical, but even he seemed puzzled. "The hull material is unknown to our databases. It appears to be some kind of metal alloy, but it's unlike anything in galactic records." Dr. Cole was already running detailed scans. "Captain, I'm reading life signs aboard that vessel. Faint, but definitely there. The beings appear to be in some kind of suspended state." "Origin?" Vex asked. There was a long pause. Dr. Cole checked his readings 3 times before answering. "Sol 3, Captain, the 3rd planet in the Sol system." The bridge went completely quiet. Everyone in the Galactic Federation knew about Sol 3. It was listed in every database as a Class 115 death world, the highest danger rating possible. The planet was considered so hostile to life that most scientists believed nothing could survive there, let alone develop intelligence in spaceflight. "That's impossible," Rex said flatly. "No species has ever survived on a Class 115 world. The classification exists purely for theoretical purposes." "Sir," Kay interrupted, "I'm getting more detailed readings now. The environmental systems inside that ship." She paused, checking her instruments again. "Captain, the temperature inside is set to levels that would kill most of us within minutes. The atmospheric pressure would crush a Zentari. The oxygen concentration is toxic to 7 different species on this ship." "And the life forms are surviving in those conditions?" Vex asked. "Not just surviving," Dr. Cole said, his voice filled with scientific excitement and terror. "According to these readings, those conditions are optimal for them. Captain, we may have discovered the first species to actually evolve on a Class 115 death world." Engineer Bay made a mechanical humming sound that indicated deep thought. "I'm analyzing their ship's construction. The design philosophy is completely alien to us. Where we build for efficiency and comfort, they've built for survival. Every system has multiple backups. The hull is designed to take massive damage and keep functioning. Even their life support can operate in conditions that would be considered emergency situations for us. What kind of world creates beings like this?" Rex wondered aloud. Dr. Cole pulled up the Sol-3 files on his personal screen. According to our databases, Sol-3 has weather systems that generate storms powerful enough to level cities. The surface temperature varies from extreme cold to extreme heat. The planet experiences regular natural disasters, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, massive floods. The ecosystem is filled with predators designed for killing. And something intelligent evolved there? Vex asked. It appears so. And not just intelligent, capable of building spacecraft and surviving in the vacuum of space. Lieutenant K's antennae drooped. Captain, there's something else. I'm detecting traces of at least 15 different alien technologies in that ship's weapon systems. It's as if they've encountered multiple species and learned from them. Learned how to fight them, Rex corrected grimly. Captain Vex stared at the damaged ship on his screen. In his 20 years of service, he had encountered hundreds of different species. Some were peaceful, some were aggressive, some were strange beyond understanding. But he had never encountered anything that challenged the basic assumptions of galactic civilization. Every species in the Federation had evolved on worlds that were safe enough to develop culture, art, and philosophy. They had learned to solve problems through cooperation and technology. War existed, but it was usually limited and civilized. But what would a species be like if it had evolved on a world where everything was trying to kill it? What would their culture look like? Their technology, their approach to conflict? Sir, Dr. Cole said quietly, we need to make a decision. Do we maintain safe distance and report this to the Council, or do we attempt contact? Vex considered his options. The safe choice would be to call for a full military escort and let the experts handle first contact. But something about the battered ship called to him. Despite all the battle damage, despite coming from the most dangerous world imaginable, the vessel wasn't attacking, it was just floating there. Captain, Engineer Bay said, I'm detecting a signal from their ship. It's weak, but it appears to be some kind of distress call. They're asking for help? Kay asked in surprise. It would seem so. Captain Vex made his decision. Prepare a boarding party. Dr. Cole, Commander Rex, Engineer Bay, you're with me. Kay, maintain safe distance but keep all sensors focused on that ship. If anything goes wrong, jump to hyperspace immediately and report to command. Sir, Rex said carefully. Are you sure about this? We have no idea what we're dealing with. Vex looked at the screen one more time. The ship hung in space like a wounded animal, scarred by battles across the galaxy, but somehow still alive. Whatever species had built it had survived the impossible. They had turned the most dangerous world known to galactic science into their home. No, he said finally. I'm not sure at all. But that's exactly why we need to find out what they are. As the Harmony's Edge moved closer to the mysterious vessel, none of the crew could imagine that they were about to make first contact with a species that would change everything they thought they knew about survival, strength, and what it meant to be truly dangerous. The airlock hissed open, and Captain Vex stepped into the alien ship. The first thing that hit him was the smell, sharp, metallic, with traces of something that made his nose burn. Behind him, Dr. Cole coughed and adjusted his breathing mask. The air is safe to breathe, Dr. Cole said, checking his scanner. But it's harsh. Very harsh. Commander Rex kept his weapon ready but not raised. The red-scaled Dracon had fought many battles, but stepping onto this ship felt different. Everything about it screamed danger. Sharp metal edges jutted from walls where other species would have smooth curves. The lighting was too bright, casting hard shadows everywhere. Even the floor felt wrong under their feet, designed for beings with much stronger bones. This corridor could cut someone just by walking through it, Rex muttered. Engineer Bay rolled forward on his mechanical legs, scanning everything. The design makes no sense, he said. Where we would use force fields for safety, they use physical barriers. Where we would use automated systems, they use manual controls. It's like they expect everything to break. Maybe everything does break on their world, Dr. Cole suggested. They moved deeper into the ship. Every room they passed showed the same strange design philosophy. controls that required incredible hand strength to operate, chairs that seemed built for beings with bones like steel, temperature controls set to levels that would cook most galactic species alive. Here, Dr. Cole said, stopping at a reinforced door. Life signs are strongest behind this barrier. The door was massive, thick metal with locking mechanisms that looked like they belonged on a bank vault. Engineer Bay worked on the controls while the others waited. After several minutes, the door slowly ground open. Inside was a room filled with sleeping pods. But these weren't the elegant stasis chambers used by civilized species. These looked more like medical emergency units, built for keeping someone alive in the worst possible conditions. "By the stars," whispered Dr. Cole. Through the transparent covers, they could see the beings inside. They were bipedal like many galactic species, but smaller than expected. Their skin was a strange pale color, and they had hair growing from their heads in various shades. What shocked the boarding party was how normal they looked. "They're not very big," Rex observed. "Don't let that fool you," Dr. Cole said, reading his scanner with growing alarm. "Their bone density is off the charts. Muscle fiber efficiency is beyond anything in our databases. And their cardiovascular systems." He paused, checking the readings again. "Rex, their hearts are built like industrial pumps." "What does that mean?" "It means they're designed for sustained extreme stress. Their bodies can function under conditions that would kill us in seconds." Engineer Bay was examining the sleeping pods. "These aren't stasis chambers," he announced. "They're just sleeping. In conditions that register as lethal to my sensors, they're simply taking a nap." As if responding to his words, one of the beings began to stir. The creature's eyes opened, small, bright, and instantly alert. Where most species took time to recover from stasis, this being went from sleep to full awareness in seconds. The creature sat up slowly, looking around the room with calm intelligence. When it saw the boarding party, it didn't panic or reach for weapons. Instead, it smiled. "Hello," the being said in perfect galactic standard. "I'm Dan." The simplicity of the greeting stunned them all. Here was a creature from the most dangerous world in known space, and it was being polite. "You speak our language?" Dr. Cole asked. "We've been listening to galactic broadcasts for a while," Dan replied, climbing out of his pod with fluid grace. "We learned several languages before we started exploring. Standard protocol for first contact." Dan was shorter than any of them, but as he moved, Rex noticed something unsettling. Every step was perfectly balanced. Every gesture was controlled. This being moved like a predator, relaxed, but ready to explode into action at any moment. "Are you injured?" Dr. Cole asked, noting the scars visible on Dan's arms. Dan looked confused for a moment, then laughed. "Oh, these? No. These are normal. You collect scars living on Earth. Part of growing up." "Growing up?" "Yeah. Learning to survive. Everyone has scars." Dan's tone was casual, as if discussing the weather. The other pods were opening now. 3 more beings emerged, 2 males and 1 female, all moving with that same predatory grace. They introduced themselves as Kate, Tom, and Sam. All were friendly, curious, and completely unaware of how terrifying they appeared to the galactic visitors. "So you're from the Galactic Federation?" asked Kate, the female. She was examining Engineer Bay with obvious interest. "We've been hoping to make contact. Earth has so many questions about other worlds." "Your ship has taken massive damage," Rex pointed out. "How are you still alive?" Tom, who appeared to be their medic, shrugged. "The endurance is tough. We built her to last. Had some run-ins with hostile species, but nothing we couldn't handle." "Hostile species?" Dr. Cole leaned forward. "How many?" "Let's see," Sam said, counting on her fingers. "The Razor Swarm near Alpha Centauri. Those crystal beings in the Vega system who tried to eat our ship. The machine race that wanted to study us by taking us apart. The pirates in 3 different sectors. Oh, and those fungus creatures who thought we'd make good fertilizer." She said it all with the same tone someone might use to list grocery items. "You fought all of them?" Rex asked, his military mind struggling to process this information. "Well, We tried diplomacy first, Dan said. We always try talking, but sometimes you have to fight. That's just how the universe works. Dr. Cole was running continuous scans on the humans, and each reading made him more nervous. Their resting heart rate was higher than most species' combat rate. Their muscle tension suggested they were ready for immediate action despite appearing completely relaxed. Most disturbing of all, their brain activity showed constant tactical assessment. They were unconsciously evaluating every person and object in the room as either resource, threat, or irrelevant. Your world, Dr. Cole said carefully. We have it classified as uninhabitable. Class 115 Death World. Death World? Kate laughed. That's a bit dramatic. Sure, Earth can be dangerous, but it's home. Beautiful place, really. You should visit sometime. Visit a Class 115 Death World? The weather's been nice lately, Tom added helpfully. Only had 2 major hurricanes this season, and the volcano activity is down. Spring is always pleasant, just watch out for the tornadoes. The casual way they discussed planetary disasters that would evacuate entire galactic colonies made Rex's scales stand on end. Perhaps, Dr. Cole said slowly, you would like to come aboard our ship? We have medical facilities, comfortable quarters. That's very kind, Dan said. We'd love to see your ship. Fair warning, though. We might need some adjustments to your life support. What you probably consider normal might be a bit soft for us. As they prepared to escort the humans back to the Harmony's edge, Rex couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't rescuing survivors. They were inviting apex predators aboard their ship. And the most unsettling part was how genuinely friendly these predators seemed to be. The humans settled into the guest quarters aboard the Harmony's edge with surprising ease. Captain Vex watched from the bridge as his crew tried to make their new visitors comfortable, but every attempt seemed to reveal something more unsettling about these beings from Earth. Captain, Lieutenant K reported, her 6 arms trembling slightly. The humans have requested food. That seems reasonable. What's the problem? They're asking for items that register as industrial solvents in our database. Vex frowned. Show me. On the main screen he watched as Tom cheerfully consumed what the ship's computer labeled as highly corrosive cleaning fluid. The human had asked for something called coffee and seemed perfectly happy with the closest chemical match the EU food processors could provide. He's drinking acid, Kay whispered. In another part of the dining area, Kate was eating what appeared to be concentrated plant toxins mixed with processed minerals. She called it a salad with salt. Sam was consuming fermented organic matter that would poison most galactic species, claiming it was just bread and cheese. Dr. Cole approached Captain Vex with his medical scanner in hand. Sir, I've been running continuous biological studies on our guests. The results are disturbing. In what way? Their digestive systems can process almost anything organic as food. The chemicals they consume for pleasure would require emergency medical treatment for us. But that's not the worst part, huh? Dr. Cole pulled up his readings on a portable screen. Watch this. The display showed Dan's vital signs as he sat calmly talking with Engineer Bay. He appears relaxed, Vex observed. Now look at these readings from when I told him we were approaching an asteroid field. The new readings were nearly identical. His stress response barely changed, Dr. Cole explained. Captain, I told him we were heading into mortal danger, and his heart rate increased by only 5 beats per minute. For comparison, when I told Lieutenant K the same thing, her stress levels tripled. What does that mean? It means they consider mortal danger to be normal. Their baseline stress level is what we would experience during a life-threatening emergency. Meanwhile, in the ship's exercise facility, the humans had asked for a place to stay in shape. Commander Rex had offered them the standard fitness equipment used by various galactic species. What followed challenged everything the crew thought they knew about physical capability. Sir, Rex reported over the comm system, you need to see this. When Vex arrived at the fitness center, he found the humans casually performing physical exercises that would require powered armor for most species. Dan was lifting weights that would crush a Zentari's bones. Kate was running at speeds that only military enhancement drugs could achieve in other races. Tom was performing acrobatic moves that defied several laws of physics. "They're not even sweating hard," Rex said in amazement. "This is what they call light exercise." "What do they do for heavy exercise?" Vex asked. "I was afraid to ask." Sam noticed their audience and waved cheerfully. "Great gym. Though do you have anything heavier? This is about what we'd use for warming up back home." Engineer Bay rolled over to study the equipment. "These weights are rated for maximum Dracon military specification," he informed her. "Oh, that's nice," Sam said politely. "Do you have anything for serious strength training?" Later that day, Dr. Cole invited the humans to share stories about their homeworld. What he heard made him question everything he thought he knew about survival and civilization. "So Earth has weather," Dan was explaining to a fascinated group of alien crew members. "Sometimes it gets pretty intense." "Define intense," Dr. Cole requested. "Well, we get these storms called hurricanes that can level entire cities. The winds move fast enough to turn debris into missiles. Then there are tornadoes, spinning columns of air that can pick up buildings and throw them around." "And people live through these storms?" asked Lieutenant K. "Sure. You just prepare for them. Build strong shelters, stock up on supplies, watch the weather reports. Most people survive just fine." Kate jumped in. "The hurricanes aren't too bad if you're ready for them. It's the earthquakes that can catch you off guard. When the ground starts shaking hard enough to knock down mountains, you just have to ride it out and hope your building doesn't fall down." "Mountains fall down?" Engineer Bay's mechanical voice cracked slightly. "Sometimes," Tom added casually. "Volcanoes are worse, though. When one erupts near your city, the ash can block out the sun for months. Plus there's the lava flows, poisonous gases, and rocks falling from the sky like bombs." The alien crew listened in horrified silence as the humans described their homeworld with the same tone others might use to discuss a pleasant vacation spot. "But surely you have safe places?" Dr. Cole asked desperately. "Areas without these disasters?" "Not really," Sam said thoughtfully. "The ocean areas get tsunamis. Walls of water hundreds of feet high that wash away everything on the coast. The desert regions have sandstorms that can strip flesh from bone, and temperatures that would cook you alive. The polar areas will freeze you solid in minutes. The forests are full of predators that hunt in packs." "Predators?" Rex leaned forward with professional interest. "Oh yeah. Bears that can tear apart vehicles. Cats that hunt silently and can kill prey 3 times their size. Wolves that work together like military units. Snakes with venom that stops your heart. Spiders whose bite makes your flesh rot away." "And humans live alongside these creatures?" "We manage," Dan said with a shrug. "Most animals leave you alone, if you don't bother them. You just have to be smart about it. Know which ones are dangerous, how to avoid them, what to do if you meet one." Dr. Cole was taking notes frantically. "Your technology must be incredibly advanced to survive in such conditions." The humans looked at each other and laughed. "Not really," Kate said. "Our philosophy is pretty simple. If something can break, it will break at the worst possible time. So we build everything to be tough, simple, and repairable." "Your spacecraft," Engineer Bay said, "it uses very basic systems compared to galactic. Standard?" "Exactly," Tom said excitedly. "Fancy computers crash when you need them most. Complex systems fail in emergencies. But a simple mechanical backup will work even if everything else goes wrong." "We learned that the hard way," Sam added. "Earth teaches you that the universe is trying to kill you, so you better be ready for anything." As the conversation continued, Captain Vex realized something that made his blue skin turn pale. These beings weren't just survivors of a dangerous world. They were the products of millions of years of evolution on a planet that had systematically eliminated anything that wasn't tough enough, smart enough, and adaptable enough to handle constant threats. They were apex predators disguised as friendly neighbors, and they genuinely had no idea how terrifying they were to the rest of the galaxy. The attack came without warning. Red lights flashed across the bridge of the Harmony's edge as Lieutenant K's panicked voice filled the ship. "Captain, multiple vessels approaching at high speed. Configuration matches Drac Confederation pirates." Captain Vex felt his stomach drop. The Drac pirates were notorious throughout this sector, aggressive, well-armed, and known for taking no prisoners. Their ships were built for one purpose: overwhelming their targets with superior firepower. Shields up, Vex ordered. Prepare evasive maneuvers. Send a distress signal to the nearest Federation patrol. Commander Rex was already at his station, checking weapon systems. Sir, we have basic defensive capabilities, but this is a survey ship. We're not equipped for serious combat. On the main screen, 5 Drac warships emerged from hyperspace, their black hulls bristling with weapons. Each ship was twice the size of the Harmony's Edge and carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. This is Captain Morg of the Drac Confederation. A harsh voice crackled over the comm system. Surrender your ship and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in immediate destruction. Dr. Cole looked up from his sensor readings. Captain, they're powering up their main weapons. Impact in 60 seconds. Vex felt helpless. The Harmony's Edge was a peaceful exploration vessel. Against 5 Drac warships, they had no chance of survival. Captain, a calm voice said behind him. Vex turned to see Dan standing at the back of the bridge. The human's expression was different now, still friendly, but with something else underneath. Something that made Vex's scales prickle with instinctive fear. Would you like us to help? Dan asked politely. Help how? Vex replied, confusion mixing with desperation. We've dealt with pirates before, Dan said, as casually as if discussing the weather. May we access your weapon systems? Rex turned from his station. This ship barely has weapons. We have light defensive lasers and basic shields. Against 5 Drac warships. That should be enough, Dan interrupted, still speaking in that calm, reasonable tone. Before anyone could respond, the other humans appeared on the bridge. Kate moved to the weapons console, her fingers dancing over controls she shouldn't have been able to understand. Tom took position at the shield controls, making adjustments that had Engineer Bay's optical sensors spinning in confusion. Sam slid into the navigation chair, her hands moving over the flight controls with impossible familiarity. Wait, Vex said. How do you know our systems? We've been watching and learning, Kate replied without looking up from her console. Standard procedure when visiting a new ship. Always understand your environment. You've memorized our entire ship in 3 days? Basic survival skill, Tom said, his fingers working rapidly across the shield controls. Know your tools, know your escape routes, know your options. The Drac ships were closing fast, their weapons charging for the killing blow. On any other day, the crew of the Harmony's Edge would have been preparing for death. Instead, they watched in amazement as the humans transformed their peaceful survey ship into something else entirely. Redistributing power from non-essential systems, Kate announced. Rerouting energy from the coffee makers, climate control, and entertainment systems to weapons, modifying shield frequency to maximum efficiency, Tom added, also polarizing the hull plating to deflect energy weapons. Plotting evasive course through the asteroid field, Sam reported, using gravitational shadows to mask our approach. What approach? Commander Rex demanded. We're running away, right? Dan looked at him with something that might have been pity. Rex, they attacked us. Running just tells them they can hunt us whenever they want. Better to solve the problem now. The lead Drac ship fired its main cannon. The massive energy beam that should have vaporized the Harmony's Edge instead struck their reconfigured shields and scattered harmlessly into space. Impossible! Captain Morg's voice roared over the comm. No survey ship has shields that strong. They don't, Dan said quietly. But their shields weren't designed by humans. What followed was like watching a masterclass in applied violence. The humans didn't just fight the pirates. They turned the entire battle into a controlled demonstration of why attacking them had been a mistake. Sam piloted the ship through the asteroid field like it was a training course, using the spinning rocks as cover and weapons. She made the Harmony's Edge dance between massive boulders, leading the pirates into narrow passages where their larger ships couldn't maneuver. Kate turned the ship's simple defensive lasers into surgical instruments, targeting specific systems on the pirate vessels. Instead of trying to destroy the ships, She systematically disabled their weapons, engines, and life support, with precise shots that shouldn't have been possible with their equipment. Tom managed the shields like a conductor leading an orchestra, redirecting power and adjusting frequencies to turn every pirate attack into a harmless light show. And Dan coordinated it all with the calm efficiency of someone who had done this 1,000 times before. Second pirate ship disabled, Kate reported. Third ship attempting to retreat. Let them go? Sam asked, executing a maneuver that used a spinning asteroid to slingshot them behind the fourth pirate vessel. No, Dan said simply. They'll just attack someone else tomorrow. The battle ended in 12 minutes. 5 Drac warships, the terror of 3 star systems, were left floating helplessly in space, their crews alive but their ships completely disabled. This is Captain Morg, came a shaky transmission. We surrender. Please don't destroy us. We won't hurt you, Dan replied over the comm. But you need to understand something. This sector is under human protection now. Any ship that attacks, peaceful vessels will answer to us. Spread the word. The silence on the bridge of the Harmony's edge was complete. Every alien crew member stared at the humans with a mixture of awe and terror. How? Commander Rex finally whispered. Practice, Kate said with a shrug. Earth is basically a combat training ground. Everything there is trying to kill you, so you learn to fight smart. Your weapons modifications, Engineer Bay said, his voice circuits crackling with confusion. They violate 17 safety protocols. Safety. Protocols are for safe environments, Tom replied. In a fight, safety is winning fast enough that the other guy doesn't get a second shot. Captain Vex looked at the disabled pirate ships floating in space. You could have destroyed them. Why would we do that? Dan asked, seeming genuinely puzzled. They're not a threat anymore. Killing them wouldn't solve anything. But you could have. Captain, Dan said quietly. We're from a world where the weather can kill you, the animals hunt you, and the ground itself tries to swallow you alive. These pirates, he gestured at the screen. They're not even close to the most dangerous thing we've faced this week. As the Harmony's Edge resumed course, leaving the defeated pirates behind, Captain Vex realized that everything had changed. The humans weren't just survivors, or even warriors. They were apex predators who had learned to wage war with the same casual competence that other species use to make breakfast, and somehow, impossibly, they were still the friendliest beings he had ever met. 3 weeks after the pirate encounter, Captain Vex sat in his quarters writing the most important report of his career. The words on his screen would change everything the Galactic Federation thought it knew about the universe. Outside his window, he could see the capital world of New Geneva growing larger as they approached. Soon the humans would stand before the Galactic Council and nothing would ever be the same. A soft chime announced a visitor. Come in, Vex called. Dan entered, carrying 2 cups of what the humans called coffee. The liquid still registered as industrial solvent on the ship's sensors, but Vex had learned to accept such impossibilities where humans were concerned. Thought you might want some caffeine, Dan said, offering 1 cup. You've been working on that report for hours. Vex accepted the cup carefully. Over the past weeks, the humans had somehow modified the ship's food processors to create beverages safe for other species. It was typical of their approach. They solved problems others didn't even know existed. I'm trying to explain what you are to people who have no frame of reference, Vex said. How do I tell the Council that we've discovered a species of friendly apex predators? Dan sat down across from him. Is that what we are to you? Dan, your people casually describe planetary disasters as minor weather. You treat combat like a routine maintenance task. Yesterday I watched Kate fix our main engine by manually holding components that would kill most species through radiation exposure alone. She wore gloves, Dan pointed out. The gloves were melting. Dan shrugged. Kate's always been good with her hands. Back home, she worked on oil rigs in the North Sea during winter storms. Ship engines are easy compared to that. This was exactly what Vex meant. The humans discussed impossible feats like they were ordinary jobs, over the ship's comm, System. Dr. Cole's excited voice called for attention. Captain, you need to see this. The humans have been helping with our research data. Vex and Dan made their way to the science lab where they found Dr. Cole surrounded by holographic displays showing months of survey data. What am I looking at? Vex asked. 3 weeks of work compressed into 6 hours. Dr. Cole replied, his voice filled with scientific joy. The humans looked at our survey methods and made suggestions. Simple changes that increased our efficiency by 400%. Tom looked up from a complicated sensor array he was apparently rebuilding. Your equipment is really advanced, he said, but it's designed for perfect conditions. We just made some modifications so it works better when things go wrong. What kind of modifications? Redundant systems mostly, Kate explained, not looking up from her own work. Multiple backups, manual overrides, simplified repair procedures. Standard stuff. Engineer Bay rolled over, his optical sensors glowing with excitement. Captain, they've revolutionized our maintenance protocols. Equipment that used to require 3 days of careful shutdown procedures can now be repaired while running. How is that possible? They assume everything will break at the worst possible moment, Bay explained. So they design systems that can be fixed during emergencies. It's brilliant. In the ship's recreation area, Sam was teaching Lieutenant K a human game called chess. The strategic complexity had fascinated several crew members, but what impressed Vex was how naturally the humans thought in terms of long-term planning and resource management. The key, Sam was explaining, is to think several moves ahead while staying flexible enough to adapt when your opponent does something unexpected. Like tactical planning? Kay asked, moving her piece carefully. Exactly. Chess is just war without the blood. Every human learns strategy games as children. Helps you survive. Commander Rex appeared at Vex's shoulder. Captain, I've been analyzing their combat performance against the pirates. Their tactical thinking is unprecedented. How so? They don't just react to threats. They anticipate them, prepare for them, and turn them into advantages. It's like they've been fighting their entire lives. They have, Vex said quietly. Their whole world has been fighting them since the day they were born. As they approached New Geneva, news of the pirate encounter had already spread throughout the galaxy. Reports were flooding in from across the sector. Pirate attacks had dropped to almost zero. The mere rumor that humans were patrolling the trade routes had sent criminal organizations fleeing to safer territories. Sir, Kay reported from the bridge. We're receiving priority communications from the Galactic Council. They're very eager to meet our passengers. Dr. Cole joined them on the bridge, carrying a datapad full of biological readings. Captain, I've completed my full analysis of human physiology. The results are remarkable. Tell me. They're not just adapted to survive on a Class 115 death world. They're adapted to thrive there. Every system in their bodies is optimized for handling extreme stress, rapid adaptation, and constant threat assessment. Their evolution's answer to the question, what would happen if you took a species and gave it millions of years to adapt to the worst possible conditions? And the answer is, you get humans, beings who consider galactic catastrophes to be minor inconveniences and approach every problem with the assumption that failure means death. The Harmony's Edge docked at New Geneva Station, and within hours, delegations from dozens of species had arrived to meet the humans. The response was unlike anything in galactic history. The peaceful species wanted to learn human survival techniques. The military species wanted to understand human tactical thinking. The scientists wanted to study human technology philosophy. Everyone wanted to know how a species could be simultaneously so dangerous and so friendly. Dan, Kate, Tom, and Sam handled the attention with the same calm competence they brought to everything else. They answered questions, demonstrated techniques, and shared knowledge freely. They seemed genuinely happy to help other species become more resilient and capable. But Vex noticed something in the background. Military advisors were quietly updating threat assessments. Diplomatic corps were rewriting first contact protocols. Scientists were revising their understanding of what was possible for biological evolution. The humans had no idea. but their mere existence was forcing the entire galaxy to reconsider its assumptions about strength, survival, and civilization. Indcore. His final report to the Galactic Council, Captain Vex wrote, "We have discovered a species that represents both the greatest opportunity and the greatest challenge in galactic history. Humans bring knowledge that could benefit every member species. They offer friendship, cooperation, and protection to those who need it. However, we must understand what we are dealing with. Humans are apex predators from a world that makes our worst nightmares look like pleasant dreams. They are capable of violence beyond our imagination, but they choose friendship instead. My recommendation: welcome them as allies. Learn from them, but never forget what they are. They are the most dangerous species the galaxy has ever encountered, and fortunately for all of us, they seem to like us. Note for future reference: when humans offer to help, accept gratefully. When they offer to fight beside you, feel honored. When they offer to fight against you, surrender immediately and apologize." As the Harmony's Edge prepared for its next survey mission, now with a permanent human advisor aboard, Captain Vex realized that the galaxy had just become a much safer place, and a much more interesting one.